She looked and see a monster emerging out of the water. Frightened, she ran back to where she had her tent, grabbed her wooden weapon, and runs into the jungle. She finds a place to hide, listening to rustling leaf and approaching footsteps. She stays hidden until she eventually hears the monster leave. A girl named Sarah with her boyfriend Tony and another girl, Lisa, and her boyfriend Mark, in search for fun, were on a boat cruise. Unfortunately for them, they had a shipwreck. Then, in this deserted island, Sarah found herself lying on the beach with a life jacket on, and a young man was lying unconscious not far from her. She quickly rushed where the young man was lying down, and she realized it was Mark, Lisa's boyfriend. She turned him over and realized a coral has pierced his stomach. She tried to resuscitate him. She pressed her scarf on him, stained with blood. Sarah realized Mark has passed on. She yelled at him. No response. She screamed for help, but no one came. She cried and cried, and then she ventured into the bush to look forward to how to survive since she is alone on this island. She started looking for Tony and Lisa, and she couldn't find them anywhere. She started looking for means to get out of the island or get help. She doesn't know how long she's going to stay in this island, and she doesn't know who is there with her. As she walked around the island, she came back to the spot where her friend was lying dead. She realized he was already smelling, so she buried him on a shallow grave. In search of how to survive deep in the forest, she found a red cooler and a bag hanging from a tree. Hopeful, she thought someone might be close by. She realized that some people must have been on this island. Examining the bag, among the things in the bag were medicines from 1994. Then she realized that people have been on the island and it's been from years ago. And everything she was seeing there belonged to people that has been in the island from years ago. She also found a car radio, book, and a teddy bear. She discovered a tent and various things. That actually made her hopeful and scared. Maybe these people are somewhere or they are gone. She started yelling out for people or anyone that owned any of those material, but no one answered. She became more scared. That night, there were heavy rainfall and Sarah seek shelter under some leaves, using a jacket to cover herself. The next morning, she catches some small fish to feed herself. Stranded on the beach island, Sarah sees a fish with a unique mark on the body. She picks it up, wondering what could have given the fish that kind of mark. She remembers where she buried her friend. She rushed back there and she realized that her dead friend's body has been mutilated and dragged away by someone or something. She grabs a piece of wood, sharpens it with a stone into a spear for defense, and looks around expecting to see what mutilated her friend's body, because whatever did that to the friend's body can also come to attack her. She became more scared, but she found nothing. Sarah found a floating suitcase. She arranged her life jacket in order to sail away, but her weight wasn't taking it. That night was the third night on the island. She changes her clothes, puts on a sneakers to stay warm. She found a metal box. Inside the metal box, she found pictures. She was trying to examine the images when she heard the sound of helicopter over her. She went to get a flare and she fires it up, but it doesn't work. She tried the second time, it worked, but as the noise disappears into the distance, she looked to see if they get a response, but no one responded. She looked and see a monster emerging out of the water. Frightened, she runs back to where she had her tent, grabs her wooden weapon, and runs into the jungle. She finds a place to hide, listening to rustling leaves and approaching footsteps. She stays hidden until she eventually hears the monster leave. The next day, she realizes that it was the monster that mutilated her friend's body and ate the fish in a certain kind of way. Again, she tries to put Tony's life jacket inside the suitcase, trying to use it as raft to sail away. But despite her attempt, the suitcase raft can't support her weight, so she throws the life jacket and suitcase away. That night, Sarah sleeps on a hollow tree, keeping her weapon close in case the monster returns. At some point during the night, Sarah is sleeping inside a tree trunk when she hears the monster around and she tries to stay quiet as possible. The beast approaches, but they didn't see Sarah. The terror didn't last long and it ends with the thing going away. The next morning, the frightened Sarah comes out of the trunk and manages to catch small shark, using the small little fish as food. That night was already the 5th night of Sarah being on this island, hiding in a place she couldn't sleep at all because she knows the monster comes in the night. She stays awake all through the night with her weapon beside her, hoping to attack the monster in case the monster comes close. But the monster didn't come that night. The next morning, weather seems to turn and it thunders a lot. She hears the monster, and looking at the monster sees her. She grabs her weapon and runs desperately until she runs away. But when she was running, she got injured and really scared. The next morning, she goes to the beach and watching her wound, the wound she got from running away from the monster the previous night. Then Sarah changes her clothes and she sees an inflatable raft with a tent slowly approaching the island on the horizon. Not believing what she sees, she swims towards the raft and finds 2 survivors from the shipwreck. That was her boyfriend Tony and Lisa. Sarah couldn't believe her luck and she immediately threw herself into her boyfriend's arm. Tony reassures her, saying that now everything will be alright. After a while, the girl prepares breakfast for Lisa and Tony. Tony and Lisa admires the beauty of the island, but then Sarah warns them about the danger lurking beneath the water. Tony asks the girl to calm down and affectionately calls her dear. He tells her that everything will be fine. Sarah told Lisa and Tony about the mutilated body of Mark and how the monster have been causing havoc for her on the island. And Tony and Lisa exchanged embarrassed glances. They didn't really believe Sarah. Sarah tells Lisa and Anthony that Mark didn't survive the shipwreck and the monster dragged his body underwater. Lisa walks away from her friend and in tears, trying to comprehend her loss. After some time, the friends are alone on the beach. Sarah stares blankly at the camp surface of the water and tells her friend how scared she was to be in the middle of island. She counted her days as if it were her last, thinking and going crazy. With the silence of the raft, Sarah is sure that it's better to risk it on the raft of the ocean than to end up here, eaten by the monster. But the friends disagree. Lisa and Tony didn't want to return to the water. They felt the island is safer for them. They didn't really believe Sarah, so Sarah started making plans of how to escape with the raft they sailed to the island with alone. She wanted to sail west because that is the direction the planes fly, so there might be people living there. Sarah tried to convince Lisa and Tony more for them to sail away from the island, but Lisa and Tony refused. They felt more safe on the island. Later that night, Sarah launches the inflatable raft into the water, making a daring attempt to escape without the 2 of them. Tony and Lisa realizing this, Tony chasing after Sarah. Tony caught up with Sarah and questioned her how she could try to escape without them. Sarah tries to tell him that she cannot stay on the island because of that monster. Tony tries to hold Sarah down not to go with the raft. They started arguing. In the middle of argument, they heard a scream and they run back to the tent where they realized that the monster have attacked Lisa. Sarah tried to intervene with her weapon and her knife, but it was already too late. The monster carried Lisa to the water. Tony, seeing the monster, was so scared, so he agreed to leave the island with Sarah. Sarah and Tony made a plan to live on the island. When they were about leaving, the monster attacked them. Sarah confronted the monster. She used the flare to shot the monster on her face, and that blinded the monster, and she used the knife to cut off her head. Finally, Sarah mutilated the monster. She killed the monster. Fortunately, the terrible night turns into a dam. We see Sarah limping towards the raft, carrying the head of the monster as a proof of what happened to her on that cursed island, which is now in flames. Unfortunately, this will be her salvation, being a signal for someone to see from afar. The flame from the island was noticed from afar, and helicopter was sent to come find out what was going on, and that was how Sarah was rescued. That was how Sarah survived 9 days on the island with this monstrous sea monster. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories coming your way. Goodbye.